Welcome everybody. It's great to have everyone from our Sparx Systems YouTube site, and it's great to have our audience here with us today. My name's Scott and I'm joined by Stephen. Good morning, Stephen. How are you today?
Very well, thank you, Scott.
Excellent. It's great to hear. I understand that we're going to be having a look at some model options today. So looking forward to seeing how we can make some changes to some model options.
Yes, Scott, that's right. We're going to look at the options, which are a little bit analogous to preferences. Now, we did an earlier video, and I encourage people, if they haven't looked at that video, to look at the preferences. And let's do what we always do, though. Let's set our perspective, to set our focus on what we're working on. We are looking at a case study for a urban parking meter, digital parking meter system. So it's been modeled. This part of the model has been done in UML, so we're going to change our perspective. Up in the top right-hand corner, got a drop down there and a number of perspective sets, and I'm going to choose UML, and the perspective I'm going to have is all UML, both structural and behavioral. Notice the application changes to focus on UML. We'll leave that for the moment. Now, we did look at the preferences window in a previous video. I want to just touch on that before I start looking at options, just to put people into the right frame of reference. From the start ribbon here, we've got the appearance panel and we've got the preferences window. So I'm going to bring that up just briefly, and before we start looking at the model options. So these preferences are all about personal things that you want to set yourself, right? So window behavior, I want to always start with the application maximized. I've got some, some appearances here. I want to look at behavior. I want to say that, I want, layout uses all relations, all sorts of things there. But they're the preferences, Scott, and that's not what we're going to focus on today. But I wanted to mention it because it's a very related thing. But remember, those preferences, for the main part, are personal. Now, on the settings window, and rightfully it should be, because it's a kind of thing that's a configuration task which a librarian or an administrator would typically perform. So we click on that, and again we get a number of panels up there: security, model, reference data, version control. Now, under the model one, we've got a number of items there. We've got auditing, integrity, transfer, and things. We'll be looking at those in other videos, but we're going to focus our attention on this one called options. Now, you notice that pops up, and you could be excused for thinking this was the preferences window, because they look a little bit like each other, but always remember that they're not. These ones are universally applied across the model, and there's some very interesting ones in there. So let's have a look at it. We've got a tree view down the left-hand side, and we've got a number of different panels that pop up as we move through there. And I'm going to collapse this source code one for a minute. It's creating a little bit of noise there. Let's go to our general one there, and we've got a file directory. Now, this is a useful thing, Scott, for as a sort of placeholder for files. We're not going to dwell on that one today, but anyone that's working, with source code files and other types of files might find that useful. The other thing is, what is the minimum version of Enterprise Architect? And if you've been around Enterprise Architect for some time, you'll know that it is a tool that has evolved, with the whole landscape of technology and business and strategy modeling. And, it's been around for, a great number of years, obviously from version 1, and we're currently at version 17 in this particular one. So it's saying what the minimum build is that I need to perform these tasks. So let's say that it's 16.1, and let's say what's the current one. The build is 1704, which the 17 is telling you that it is actually version 17 that we've got running. So this is the appearance section, used on diagrams in this model unless overwritten for an element. So we've got a font face and a notes thing there. Let's go back, Scott, and close this window, which is very easy to pop back up again. And let's open up a structural model, and we'll go to our canonical model, the class model there. And let's go back, remembering that the options window is on the settings ribbon and the models panel and this options item. Bring it back up again there, and let's have a look at this, the font face there. So we'll put this over this side here. And let's have a look at that font face. We can choose any font that we want. There's a huge number of them in there. Let's choose, let's have a look at this one here. One of my favorite fonts is this Cambry one. Let's do that. And let's choose a font size. Let's choose something reasonably small, 9. And what you'll see is that this will change. And the notes font, let's change that as well. And I'll change that to something a little bit more dramatic. This Lucida handwritten one there. And I'll close this window. Now you notice what happened. The font changed. And if we go and look at the font in the notes window, you can see that that's changed. Now that font might be more suitable for an invitation to a party or something. You know, some users like more interesting fonts. It creates a little bit more drama in the application. But you've got lots of options there. So let's go back to that one there. And if we don't like that font, we've got this very convenient clear button here, and I can clear those out. And then next time when I go into that, you'll find that that is going to be cleared, and we're back to what we were before. So again, very easy to pop up the options window again. We've got an option here, baselines. I'm going to leave some of these other ones out. There's other options there, message spacing and things. But let's move through this a little bit. We haven't talked about baselines yet, so I'm not going to dwell on this window. But a baseline is a snapshot of the repository at a particular point in time. And when I say the repository, it can be the repository itself. It can be any package at any level in the browser. So, classic scenario, milestone comes up for a project, requirements sign off, use case, user story sign off, and we're ready to go. These are the ones that we've chosen for our sprint. Let's start working on them. And before we do that, we do a baseline. Now, baselines would normally be stored in the model itself, which is very useful because they're right there at your fingertips. But we have the option of storing them remotely in a cloud environment. And we have this service called the Reusable Asset Service. So that is a cloud environment where we can store our baselines, and then they become available to a much wider audience. People that aren't just using this repository, but using it. And we have lots of cases, Scott, where that happens. But let's just jump over that for the moment, and let's look at this cloud option. So it still surprises me, Scott, that there are some people that have been using Enterprise Architect for a number of years, but don't know that, we have moved into the cloud space since, I think it's about 2016 or something like that. So there are, these other tools that we've got. We've got the very useful Prolaborate tool, which is an incredible visualization tool for the repository, and also WebEA, which is a lightweight tool for viewing the repository in a web browser. Both of those, as you can see, have URLs to them because they're based in the cloud. So that's a very useful thing, and this is where you set those up. And the useful thing about that, Scott, is that when you're working on a diagram and you want to be able to share it with someone, you can very quickly, from the diagram properties, copy those URLs and just paste them into an email and say, hey, Wendy, go and have a look at this. And if they've got access to those tools, they can immediately click on those links. Security enabled, obviously, they'll be challenged, but they'll be able to look at those through the web without launching Enterprise Architect, the desktop tool, at all.
So what you're saying is that customers can view parts of the enterprise repository via something as simple as a web browser.
Yeah, exactly. And a mobile phone, a tablet, you're on the run somewhere. So again, I'm not going to dwell on that. That's going to be the subject of another video. But there's all sorts of options there to do with the way that cloud works. The other thing that is surprising to me, Scott, is given that we have customers that work in areas where there are multiple languages used. And in fact, in our parking meter system, we had the notion that it was an urban parking meter, and almost all cities are cosmopolitan these days, and you have a wide range of visitors that come from from parts of the world, from Asia, from the Americas, from Europe, the Middle East, all sorts of different places. And there is a translate service in here. I'm not going to enable it today because it's part of another thing. I'll just click on that button there. But there is built into Enterprise Architect a facility to translate notes and all sorts of other information in the repository. So you can imagine this parking meter, people that wanted to translate their display messages, they can do that right inside the tool. Now, you're not relying upon, the very clever engineers here at Sparx. You're relying upon a service that's been set up so it accesses a number of different translation services. So you're going to get the best of breed translation, and you can choose which translation service that you use, and you can set those up, and so you can rely upon that as being a very useful thing. And look at the wide range of languages there, Scott. They are, it's formidable, the languages that you've got. So a very useful tool, and this is the place that you do it. That will be the subject of another video, so stay tuned. Look out for that one at some point. If you subscribe, that will come up as a and prompt you that's there. MDG technologies. Now, again, we haven't talked about this, but just a little look under the hood, if you like. When we've been setting the perspective, what we've effectively been doing is saying which of these inbuilt technologies, and by technology, Scott, we really mean a kind of a focused package of modeling facilities. So you can see if you're the kind of person that does work with ArchiMate, you can see ArchiMate there used in enterprise architecture space. If you're a business person, the business process modeling notation for business process models and choreography models, a wide range of things. Amazon Web Services for architecture modeling for web applications, all sorts of different things here. Mind mapping, there are so many different things. The systems engineers are well catered for with SysML 1.5 and new releases of new versions of that coming out before too long. So these technologies are underpinning the perspectives. But Scott, it's clear that not every organization will typically use all of these. And so, what you want to do with this panel is to say, look, we've got people using ArchiMate, and we can select those, and we can also disable ones. So someone has disabled the Babok guide there, and you can say you want to disable other things. So you might want to disable ArchiMate, the earlier versions of ArchiMate, and that prevents people from creating perspectives with them using those particular features in those languages.
Yep. So in our parking example, you might want to just enable some of the UML features and perhaps disable, some of the, Amazon Web Services and Babok and ArchiMate because we're not using them in this particular example.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But as your work increases, you might say, look, this was not using any web services before. Our digital parking meter, Mark II was working on urban networks and things, and then they realized that they could use some of
a little mobile phone app or something.
Exactly, and we want to be able to model that with all the things that cloud architectures embrace of load balancers and all sorts of managed database services and things. So you have the option of turning them on and off. So that's a very useful thing. Collaboration. Again, we're going to have a video on collaboration, but there's a number of options there, and you can see there. The AI is one of the hot topics at the moment, and you can see there ChatGPT configuration. So stay tuned for another video that's going to be talking about all things to do with AI, and the Prolaborate web application takes that to an entirely new level. So if you're interested in that, and perhaps all of us should be, because it is it is the new normal, then stay tuned to that. We have all sorts of other options here. We've got this review status logs. Again, we haven't looked at the statuses. We haven't looked at reviews in detail. That will be the subject of another video. But just to know that these things are here. And again, source code engineering, there are options here for source code engineering. Let's just look at one briefly. Scott, which I think is interesting. The people that know about databases know about things like primary keys and foreign keys and unique keys. So let's have a look at that. We can set template names that define the default key that is created when Enterprise Architect generates a model. So Scott, that class diagram that we had, again, just a sneak preview into future videos and other functionality. We can take that class model and use a transformation facility to convert it from what's called a platform independent model, a PIM, into a platform specific model. And in this case, a model of the database tables, views, functions, stored procedures, all of that kind of thing with live connections to databases. But when we press that button and generate that model, the tool uses this particular template panel here to create the names, and we can decide what the names are. And you notice that there are some kind of keywords in there, some placeholders. So it's got table name there and foreign table name, and those will be filled out by the particular tables that you're connecting to. So an incredibly useful thing there. I'm not going to talk about all these languages in detail, but you can see lots of options there, and I'm remembering these are going to apply across the whole repository. So Scott, that's a very brief look at the managed model options. And in some ways, always remember that these two things are related to each other, and the windows have a similar look and feel. The preferences window from the start ribbon, which deals with personal preferences, and the managed model options from the settings window that models and allows you to configure the application across the entire repository.
No, that's fantastic. And there's lots and lots of options there for people to have a look at and to tailor the options for the model in general. So that's great. Well, I'd like to thank all of our audience at the Sparx Systems YouTube channel for watching our video today. As always, we would love you to like, comment, and subscribe. If there's any topics that you want to hear from us in the future, feel free to drop us a comment. Press the like button. We love getting feedback, so feel free to comment on any of the videos. And as always, we encourage you to subscribe so that you can see any future videos as they get developed. So my name's Scott. It's been great talking to you, Stephen. Look forward to future videos, and thanks for your time today.
Always a pleasure, Scott.